Ready for game number 1. Here we do go. Definitely an important moment for Kongdoo, as a lot of targeted bans could really hit their champion pool, but KT gonna start off with the Rise ban here.
When it comes to the side of Kongdoo Monster, if I was facing them, my expected bans would be Jarvan, Zac, and then potentially the Zoe. It feels like if those three are all denied from Kongdoo Monster, they don't have the next string of champion picks to actually take things over. The Galio is going to be banned away because they've also played the knockup comps to some pretty good success, like we saw from SK Telecom in Series 1. But right now, no attention to the jungle. Another way to approach it is just to get very aggressive with your counter jungling, so there's a potential for Score to just answer. And Freak of Freaks were able to beat Kongdoo Monster without actually banning any junglers, so we only see mid lane bans. We saw Edge hoping and praying. This is probably not what he was praying, that large parts of his champion pool are denied away.
Yeah, they're targeting Edge here big time, and I think it's a good idea. While we said before, you can target Raze, try to target Soul, take away the Ezreal, which they do first pick, but they do take away Edge's champion pool. Alistar's still available for Secret if he wants to pick that up later. But KT, they're going to have their own picks here. Their pick of the draw, and it is going to be Varus and Sejuani.
Yeah, a lot of engage already locked in here for KT. Clear what they want to do in this draft, have a push advantage around the Ezreal lane, and have Score return to Initiator on the Sejuani. Looking on the side of Kongdoo Monster, many different ways they can approach. We're expecting Raze to go on primary engage, because they've actually never won a game when he wasn't on Jarvan or Zac. Those are the only two picks they've been able to find success on, so we weren't getting hyped about the Evelynn or the Nidalee. It doesn't fit Kongdoo's style. They need Raze to be pulling off the early pressure and also shouldering engage, and that's a lot to ask when you're facing increasingly better teams like KT Rolster, but we'll be going on Ultra Comfort in the end. 8 games of Jarvan, 3 and 5 so far this season. When it comes to mid lane, a very early reach onto the Taliyah if we see it locked in. Not the biggest of surprises, but something they're playing with, at least when it comes to the mind games.
Yeah, playing around here as Pawn, playing with our hearts, that is. Flashing a bunch of stuff. Jinx obviously doesn't make any sense, but Xerath even flashed there for just a moment. Zillion. But Jack's looking to be picked up here, and actually, no, they switched to Taliyah right before that timer comes down, so we will see Pawn's Taliyah in this game.
I wonder if we'll see Edge go to one of his comfort champions, because in the past, he was a big LeBlanc player, and LeBlanc versus Taliyah is a matchup that might actually see bans drawn from KT's side. It's a winning lane matchup. We saw Kuro do well on it, and it's smart here to lock it in as last pick on the red side, because if you really want Taliyah to play the map game, and when you have Varus, Sejuani, Taliyah really does round it out to be a very strong siege draft. Banning away the LeBlanc, banning away a counter pick when it comes to the early laning phase is a smart move by KT.
You were talking about potentially counter picks for Taliyah in the LeBlanc that does get banned away. Very smart move there by KT. I think Edge would not hesitate to jump on a pick like LeBlanc. And again, another target here towards Secret, who has had a lot of success, mainly only on the Alistar. He's hitting 4 and 2 on that pick, whereas his other picks are not quite as good in terms of stats. So nice little target there, as the support role has not been taken just yet.
And because we see KT loading up for probably a 4-1 draft, it makes sense to deny engage on the support role. Ignar's had to deal with the bans, now Secret as well, like you mentioned. A statistically good champion for them, so when they have strong engage, Kongdoo Monster looks strongest. Reliable Alistar banned away, and you see the confirmation of a siege draft here from KT Rolster, because they're considering the Tahm Kench.
Tommy Kench being hovered here. Formata sitting on that one. He is 3 and 1 so far, but they decide against it right at the last second, just hovering it. Maybe a bit of mind games here as they pick up the Vladimir.
Yeah, it's a bit of a self-counter pick, as Nara does very well into Vladimir. But the theory here is if you give him a couple of ganks, we have seen Vlad overpower Gnar in a side lane, and then they'd have pretty strong 4-1, but they're pivoting pretty hard and actually going for engage. If you look really, put all the pieces of the puzzle together for KT. They have strong engage options, can still be used in a siege with the Taliyah and Varus, and then the Cosmic Radiance for disengage, but KT pretty balanced in their draft now. On the side of Kongdoo Monster, they also have an engage-heavy draft, so it's all about the team fights And that means the snowball is very likely to impact this game as it goes on.
Yeah, and I'm going to be looking towards Secret to try to pick up some big rooms with the Abyssal Voyage. We've seen so many Tahm Kenches not just be the saving grace with Devour, but also really rule the entire Rift with the mobility that you can get with that kind of maneuver. The Abyssal Voyage on Tahm Kench, of course. See what he can do. I mean, obviously, if you travel with someone like a Malzahar or even a Jarvan, you can make anyone's life on the Rift very miserable, especially guys such as Pawn and Deft, who are on a couple of carries that absolutely do not have escapes.
We're seeing great synergy between Secret and Edge so far, and just this duo of the Tahm Kench and the Malzahar. You can launch the Malzahar into the back line and get a lot of catches you don't expect. So there's a lot of synergy between Tahm Kench and Malzahar. We've only seen once on the Rift, but I imagine that KT will be ready for it. As we see the Tahm Kench roaming through mid, that's going to be a strategy they consider.
Yeah. It's really going to be up to the roams there and the vision here for KT to make sure that they can scout these guys out before they do go for the big roams. So looking forward to see if Kongdoo can put something together to take down one of the best teams we have here in Korea. And looks like we're almost ready to get into this one as a pause is coming in. Not sure what issue we have just yet.
Hopefully we get confirmation on that one. Had a lot of audio issues over at the OGN Stadium, so hard to say what's happening here. Smeb's 5th anniversary being celebrated by so many people. We had 3 different fan groups come through and shower us with gifts. Also a Deft fan. I saw an alpaca. I know what to expect. Actually looks like another animal cosplaying as alpaca, but I'll appreciate it. There is Smeb on your screen. Now seen as one of the best top laners in the world, but not able to really stand up to the assignment that was Khan in the last series. So see what he makes of things. We haven't seen a return of his Riv, and he's been largely much more away from lane dominance. Actually his first Vladimir game of the season. So I'd love to see him overtake a lane, even though early, Roach will be able to do plenty of work with the Gnar.
Yeah, Roach definitely has a big game ahead of him. He's sitting 2-6 on that Gnar, looking for some success on this pick. But either way, guys, enough dilly-dallying. We are going to get into game number 1, Kongdoo Monster versus KT. Let's do it. Here we go, guys. We're at match 40, nearing that middle of the entirety of spring. Very, very close as we near, of course, match 45, which would be right in the middle.
Decision here by Deft. Look at this. He actually started Relic Shield on patch 8.2. That's very interesting. No longer provides the Quest Shield anymore, and also the Sustain is lessened when it's used by a ranged wearer. So between the two things, a lot of interesting things to talk about. Could lead to more vision. Could just be for the Bandit passive for poke, but he's against Ezreal Tahm Kench, so I guess you could get a lot of poke onto Tahm Kench and pick up gold generation, but whether he just leaves it at that or upgrades it into Targons, we're learning something new here, because usually when I go into solo queue and my AD carry has a Relic Shield, it's because they didn't read the patch notes, Valdez.
Yeah. I remember you told me about one game where you had a Vayne who came in and picked up Relic Shield and went something like 0-5 kind of fed.
You know, it was a bit of a car crash waiting to happen as Deft's getting super aggressive. He clearly wants a Bandit proc, doesn't get one. Yeah,
we see that a lot, actually. We saw it a lot today, at least, where if you've got a slow of some sort, you can just walk up, slow them, trying to deny them some experience and also some gold by missing a minion.
Speaking of denial, Pawn actually invaded at level 1 to put down a ward onto the enemy blue, so that's the sort of thing that does suggest to me that Score might be doing some battle warding, some aggressive invading. If they translate that into more than just information, they know now that Jarvan is going for a very standard 3-camp clear, looking for a level 3 gank. Raze has been one of our premier level 2 gank mid junglers, but not doing that in this game.
Edge having some unfortunate bounces on his E there, but either way, not a big deal in the end. Just going to get slightly behind Pawn in the mid lane as Malzahar level 1, level 2. Not the most fun. Has that minion dematerializer, which has come oh so popular on mid laners nowadays. You'll notice both of them do have it.
All about controlling level 3, level 4 being hit. That's the big story there. With the minion dematerializer, it doesn't impact the first minion wave or the second, but from the third onwards, you can do some work. So Pawn is happy to push in, see what the build is, how respectful he wants to go against Malzahar. QSS rush, lost chapter into QSS, a lot of different schools of thought. Could also just try to avoid buying QSS and just go Banshee Veil, but the amount of risk there versus the reward is usually not enough. With the earlier information about the pathing from Raze, good read here by Score to be on the bottom side. The only camp up is the Krugs, so won't be visiting that one.
Kongdoo actually won the matchup against KT Rolster in the round 2 of Spring 2017. I don't really remember that, but
I remember it vaguely, but it falls into the narrative because the last game of the first round robin in Spring was against SKT. They lost that one, lost the telecom war, and from there, they did start losing to opposition you would fancy them to beat. So unfortunately, KT have traditionally, after a big match, found it hard to step up and correct their flaws afterwards. We'll see if they're able to do that here, and there's the confirmation. So when it comes to double sustain in lane for the Varus and the Tara, it's less than before, and there's no quest shield. So, right, expected that to be enough to dissuade it being picked up. The only reason you'll see it is for a bit of faster pushing, a bit of more gold generation for Mata to move towards his first item. Maybe this is going to be pseudo Ardent Sensor. Maybe we'll see something like the pickup on Zeke's Convergence, which has been a new favorite for Rakans to justify the purchase. But it is a bit strange to me when Doran Blade just feels like it now fills the role that it was always intended to after Relic Shield was so toned down.
We'll just have to wait and see how that fleshes out down on the bottom side. Pawn trying to make a roam work. We've been seeing this out of Talia's, and Score is up here as well. 3 members trying to come in here onto Roach, and they're going for the kill, the flash forward, at least to get the flash.
Yeah, Score missed the W there on the flash, tried to follow, but ended up missing the skill. So good flash by Roach, denies that one. No harm, no foul. It was as Malzahar was backing. Malzahar gets a lost chapter in the shop. That's still something to talk about. But Talia's going to walk back mid lane, push out, and maybe there'll be a chance for Raze to hit a lane while the Talia is off the map.
Definitely might have an opportunity here. And see some harass coming onto Secret by Defton Mata. Always interesting to see how good the Tarics are at their dazzles. In lane and outside, we've seen some incredible plays, with especially with the junglers in tandem. Zach's jumping in and getting the dazzle down. Jarvan's flagging and dragging in, trying to make it work. Raze, still looking for that gank.
He's been a lot more patient this game. Hasn't tried to be too transparent in his early ganks. We can talk about the summoners, but once again, supports have gone into the now common Unsealed Spellbook line. That seems to be the favorite choice. Spellbook on Edge, Spellbook on Smab. Those ones are very common as well. And at least for the early game, with no attention topside apart from the attempted dive, Smab doing very comfortably in the Gnar matchup. Gnar expected to go defensive early with a bit of magic resist, but after the Spectre's Cowl, we'll go into the Black Cleaver and have some decent trade potential against the Vladimir.
TP coming in from Secret down in the bottom lane, looking to hold that wave. So make sure you guys are counting your unsealed spellbooks, and just keeping in mind who could potentially teleport into your lane. Kongdoo could have 3, and of course KT could have 1, 2 on their side.
For now, farming, so no severe advantage. When it comes to compositions, I feel like Kongdoo Monster a lot about the catch. You always say that when you see a Malzahar. They have some good options as the game goes on. 1-3-1, depending on how big the Vladimir gets, could be tricky for them. It's still something they would like to engineer. For KT, I just want to once again feel good about a Talia drop, because a lot of the Talias recently, Crown earlier this week, have been unable to set up the famous Weaver's Wall behind an objective siege plays that are very possible for KT, especially have the eyes on the enemy jungler, which they clearly do.
Raze totally caught out here. That's going to be the Glacial Prison into feeding the kill to Pawn. They made that look extremely easy, and that will be first blood.
Yeah, Raze was so low in the jungle, would have been solo killed by Score, but why not pick up the kill involvement onto Pawn, get him closer to the lost chapter after rushing QSS. They steal away the enemy blue as well, and it's become a bit too often the story that Raze has been invaded and then Kongdoo Monster have fallen around him.
And they don't even want to stop there. Here comes the Vladimir ultimate in, as well as a TP. Score eating some damage here, no blast plant. And that was Edge from the mid lane, actually, to TP up into the top lane to save his top laner of Roach.
Does mean that he's going to lose a bit of a minion wave in mid lane. Looking at score, 100% kill participation, sick of course. Still very, very early into the game. Strong laning 2v2 bot side for KT, so no worries there whatsoever. But this time, compared to the previous series where they drafted the Galio comp, never got the engages they were looking for, kind of missed their timings. They started with an early invade. They got a lot of value out of their first global use in the Weaver's Wall. Seem much more coordinated after being a bit all at sea against Kingzone Dragon X.
Still looking for that first roam from Secret. Has hit level 6, but outside of that, doesn't really have too many other items. They still have so much potential with flashes up on Edge, Raze, and even Secret, if they do want to make that happen. Even if they lock someone down for a long time, they could potentially have Soul, even True Shot Barrage from the bottom lane. It's definitely a lot of options for them that they still have not put into play just yet.
Thinking back on the double relic shield, because again, it's very surprising to see this on patch 8.2, can't really be overstated. The one thing you can say is that although there's a little bit less sustain than there was before, now it's going to be double relic shield sustain and a tier for sustain, and it's on a carry who wants to lane until he picks up the Rage Blade. So if you want to basically guarantee the longest extended lane possible, perhaps this is something you can consider. It is also picking up quite a lot of gold generation from it between the relic shield procs and also the bandit. So it's a very different way to approach, and I'm not convinced that just going Doran Blade is not the right way to go, but KT are clearly seeing something, and Deft was one of the first people in Korea to go down the Relic Shield line during the off-season, which became, of course, the meta on patch 8.1.
Well, maybe if they're just totally expecting no action at all whatsoever, and you just want to lane forever, this might just be the option for you, the answer for your lane.
If Score's never going to go bot lane, it's also going to be a pretty decent choice. It's tough to be Raze.
Raze died without even poking the KT champions.
It's true. I mean, he died in CC duration, so that's an unfortunate look. He'll hope to raise that one. If he can get above 612, that'd be nice.
That's the hope, of course. Our Sejuani score has already beaten that number.
I wonder if Roach's purchase will pay off. We see this sometimes, early Executioner's Calling on a ranged auto attacker against the Vlad, but the build path, obviously, it only really builds into the Mortal Reminder, which is not something that Nara is expected to build this game. So it's purely for lane control only. If you go this build and lose in CS, it doesn't seem worth it, as Raze is getting a bit cute here.
He tries to engage onto Smeb, who has everything available right now, and a stopwatch is going to be blown. They give the kill over to Pawn. Even Mata TP'd in. Even Mata TP'd, but still, not enough.
Yeah, maybe Yujun needs to come in game 2.
That was definitely not a good look, Papa.
I don't know what he was thinking could happen. Like, I kind of look back and think of all the permutations of what could happen in that scenario, and I feel like all of them were bad for Raze. So I think he just misread the situation horribly. Means his top laner now has no pressure, because of course he's dead. The execution is calling very unlikely to matter. If you're winning, it's definitely a great win more purchase against Vladimir, but now your Black Cleaver's delayed so comically long after you spent 800 gold on Executioner's Calling that doesn't build into anything that you're realistically going to build at any time in the next 30 minutes. Yeah, things looking really tricky here for Kongdoo Monster, not wanting to roll over against KT Rolster.
I think KT kind of took a page out of Afrika's book and said, oh, we don't even have to ban out Raze. He's just not really going to do much in the game anyway. And so far, they've been right. They gave him the Jarvan. They are trying to set up a play down on the bottom side, but Soul is, kind of suspiciously right next to the ward. They're like, okay, well, we know you're going to come in here and do something, so we'll just back off.
I mean, the question you ask is, why isn't Tahm Kench in lane? There was no reason for him to exit lane. They knew he wasn't roaming up, so they put 2 and 2 together, and like you say, the ward gave them more information. Speaking of wards, they at least know this has been started, but can't see the exact HP. They can now control ward over the wall.
Score still going to secure this one. Raze this time says, well, I'm not going to make the same mistakes twice. Just let it go.
This is the score we asked for. We mentioned that Score has had a down season. He is schooling Raze in this game. The matchup doesn't necessarily lend it to it, of course. The Sejuani and the Sejuani and the Jarvan, very similar champions in the early game clearing. But Score has picked up all the advantage, been involved in both kills, denying camps under the nose of the enemy jungle. We're piling on, we're bullying here, Valdez, if we're KT Rolster.
We are.
And now we have the mid lane turret going down against a global. So they have the global lead and they have the mid lane turret lead. The map is wide open for KT Rolster, and basically everywhere, every laner here now has to cower in fear because they're not going to have much vision on the positioning of pawn.
Ocean Drake early. It's not super early, but it's still a decent timing for KT. They'll just add even more regen to their team. Looks like a second Ocean Drake is going to be the next one. So, not going to be triple Infernal this game, but still a nice Drake to have early.
Only good news stories for KT. Ragebait could be compared to just a Mana Moon here. So the Muramana transformation might be early, but if you don't have a Sheen, your cooldown reduction's pretty low. You don't have the same strength in your Q harass, so really no worries here whatsoever about what Soul will bring out in lane. They have massive sustain with double Relic Shield and the tier, and it's pretty clear that I think Deft is just going to leave it at the Relic Shield and use it for gold generation. Yeah, the map is so wide open for KT Rolster. They're ahead in every single lane, even though Nara does well in the matchup against Vlad. Many different ways to say that KT is winning. And now action onto Raze specifically, but also Kongdoo Monster. They need to find a way to actually get a foothold in this game. Otherwise, it's going to kind of lose organically around them.
Yeah, Raze just kind of awkwardly trying to find a place on the map where you can have some sort of engage or presence at all, but he's just going to be farming up here. They still haven't made a Nether Grasp work. I mean, did he even use the Nether Grasp in this game? Not that I saw, Papa.
No, he's not. If he has the ultimate hat, he's not getting much value out of that sorcery,
yeah.
and he isn't a sorcery tree, and that's pretty standard pickup for Malzahar, so that's a bit of a feels bad. No point ulting the pawn because he has the QSS, and now Score is already getting comically tanky after he's finished up the Giant's Belt on his way to Warmox. Feels like he's got some turret diving he wants to do, and bot lane seems like the likely recipient as Score might naturally path down there.
Nice bit of forward warding here by Mata and Score as a team, but you can see triple control ward now out of Kongdoo. They're saying, okay, get your wards the hell out of our red side jungle. We don't want you to have any vision, so at least they've got that going for them.
Consider the position, though. It's very defensive for this early in the game. 15 minutes to have that defensive triangle. That's the sort of wards you see at 35 minutes when you're against a Baron buff, and you don't want to just die straight up if someone gets picked. Super ultra defensive. All it gives them, realistically, is not control over camps, but control over the enemy, having a deep ward to get very early information as to where Jarvan is. They're saying, well, if they don't know that Jarvan's on the bot side, we can threaten a gank, but Score and Pawn are just going to walk up. This doesn't actually stop Pawn from roaming. That's why these wards aren't great, is that usually control wards on the bot side stop a Taliyah from using Weaver's Wall. They're so defensive they won't see the Taliyah leave lane. And when Score face checks, he has no worries about being all in. So honestly, feels like 225 gold worth of waste on the side of Kongdoo Monster in my estimation.
You can see that KT was trying to make a play down in bottom side. And once again, you know, Score coming in here, getting that vision back, as you were talking about. But that turret is getting very low. We're already below half health.
No Devours on cooldown.
Yep. Coming down here, and here comes the Taliyah along with Score, who actually has to Arcane Assault over the wall, and that's going to be one kill here. The rest of them just being bopped underneath the turret. They can't even do anything. Raze trying to do a cute little flag and drag flash combination, but just gets himself killed. And that is 4 kills on the side of KT, making this look like a bully fest, Papa.
Is it live or replay? Are we sure this is not Kingzone versus KT game 1? Because KT are completely obliterating Kongdoo Monster. No good news story. This is perfect game pace from them as we go on. You couldn't be any better at 17 minutes. There's 7,000 gold ahead. The enemy jungler has died 3 times. The control wards was so defensive, you thought it was a mistake, and now KT. Again, it's very hard to use appropriate broadcast words to say how far behind Kongdoo Monster are.
Yeah.
They saw the Devour, so Deft is like, I'm just going to ult the nearest person. It ends up being the Tahm Kench. Cosmic Radiance is armed, and that's when Kongdoo Monster knew they were done.
5 of them getting hit by the Vladimir ultimate. Pawn, I mean, Raze does save
nice.
Roach, I suppose.
He EQ flashed. It was nice mechanics, but unfortunately he also dies.
He's like, remember, I can still play Jarvan, but it doesn't really matter.
That's kind of the scary thing, is the best news in the early parts of the season were how good Raze was looking, and a new team on an unfamiliar role. A lot of the interviews with Kongdoo Monster and also their preseason was how much they put trust in their jungler. And from ahead, that trust was founded, but from behind, he's found it so hard, and now they turn onto Mouse.
Well, he's trying to turn it onto the Sejuani, and here comes the Tahm Kench with the help of Soul. So they do have a bit of a 4-on-1 going on, but a perfect blasting plan gets him over the wall here. And Edge is going to be the one that falls in the end. Pawn getting low too, but does survive.
No one goes down, still perfect game pace. Vladimir takes down the Malzahar, caught in transition. The control was starting to stick so much more aggressively by KT Rolster, taking away every single jungle camp. Raze gonna try and fight back for his blue. Good luck with that one.
Yeah. This is the kind of game where I know you as an analyst kind of have trouble because there's not much to analyze here. It's just one team getting bopped on the head.
So what do you want to talk about, Valdez?
Not the most fun time for Kongdoo. I don't know. Hongbokes are, they're kind of comfortable, actually.
Yeah, we weren't shown on screen for the second series. If you missed the start of the show, we are wearing the Korean national dress. If you missed this, well, this is a big gold lead pushing up, and Edge doesn't do any damage, of course, because the Warmog's basically already complete onto score. Score almost dies, but a nice little blasting cone. Look, I can do play-by-play, just in case. And then Edge found Smeb, and that was sad news for him.
Yeah. Pawn took a little bit of damage. Actually got the yellow little crabby thing from the Tahm Kench. Almost got devoured, but got out of there alive.
It's in the same way we knew from the successful bans by Jinner. I believe they were the first team to double ban out the Jarvan and Zac. While that's not being done anymore, it still tells the same story of if you can hold Raze in check, it doesn't feel like Kongdoo Monster have a second strategy. It feels like that's the only way they're able to win games. It is damning that Raze has never won on a jungle that isn't Jarvan or Zac. He's tried other ones, but hasn't found any success on them. Kongdoo Monster, you know, pre-season, I had the 2 lowest ranked teams as Kongdoo and Rox Tigers. Rox Tigers, oh boy, was I wrong on that. A lot of their players have done a lot of development. Kongdoo are looking like they would also be a different proposition with Raze having a great start to the season, but unfortunately for them, this feels like a return to Kongdoo of a year ago, where when they have that step up to the LCK, they just don't have the power on the Rift to necessarily hold it with the big boys. The funny thing about Kongdoo was that even in their seasons where they won 2, 3, 4 best of 3s, they were actually really good from ahead. They were good at closing out games compared to someone like Spenu Sonic Boom that were famous for mismanaging their win conditions. The problem for Kongdoo was they very often lost the early game, and then, of course, it was irrelevant how good they were from ahead. So struggle here for Kongdoo Monster is games like this that are really looking hard. They're going to try something at least.
Well, they trapped 2 people, and Pawn on the Taliyah has no escape. Can they actually complete the kill, though? The stopwatch into the Cosmic Radiance. They want to keep this perfect game going, and they may just do that. There's the flash forward from Depton. Oh, no, score died. Well, no perfect game, but almost perfect, I suppose. Double kill goes over to Deft. 3 more members of Kongdoo do die, and the domination continues.
He's playing like a team. They're backing out Pawn, who was so close to going down. Edge could not use the ult to finish him off. That's why he didn't flash ult onto the Taliyah. Would have just been cleansed away. Outer top lane turrets goes down. The outer ring has been dead for a while now. Watch the replay. Score did die through all of this, but this was basically Kongdoo saying, we have to try something now, otherwise the map will be warded and we'll never get back into the game. When you're already behind by a lot in gold, Pawn really on point. Great timing. Deft also in position. The little heal coming through from Mata was enough, and then it was the killing fields for KT.
Score didn't have to go back in. He should have just backed off. He would have lived. He got hit by the Q of Malzahar and just died to the little minion dudes that I always forget the name of.
Voidlings?
Yeah, Voidlings.
He comes from the Void, Valdez.
He does, yeah. Like many others.
He'd probably prefer to take a trip back to the Void right now. Summoner's Rift not working out for him.
Yeah, Summoner's Rift vacation, not too fun. Not what he envisioned.
Well, at least Raze has gone above 0 damage. He's up to 26-31.
Okay. That's better.
Many orders of magnitude higher. Will he out-damage Secret? That's always the question we have to ask when junglers fall behind.
Yeah. Well, he is out-damaging Mata so far. Tarek, famously not too much damage.
We wonder where we go in terms of build, but despite having so much extra gold, it's going to be very standard from Mata. Merc Tread's purchase, going to work on the Redemption next. They're trying to squish Pawn, and I think they will.
Yeah, he doesn't have Flash available, so he does shut down that killing spree. A nice chunk of gold goes over to Soul on the Ezreal.
Well, there's so many issues across the map that a pick like that means almost nothing because they can't turn on Baron, the minion waves aren't in order, they don't have vision to turn a pick into anything, so it's just gold. A feel-good moment, but just gold for the side of Kongdoo. I'm wondering when KT is going to start DPSing down the Baron.
Okay, well, that Executioner's Calling coming in handy here up against Smeb, looking for the solo kill, and he gets it. Smeb just not able to get out of there, had his flash, but no ghost. Decides not to flash away from that one.
And Roach puts up his hand and says, well, in the middle of all the madness, I was able to finish an Adaptive Helm and the Black Cleaver. I can turn onto the Vladimir. He's the only person who hasn't died this game from the side of Kongdoo Monster, and they've at least got something going for them, so that's good for Kongdoo.
There's always that scary moment. Feels like the solo queue when you begin to throw, but it's definitely maneuvers by Kongdoo that are opening up these kills for them. And the potential to come back. It still is a very wide gold lead here, about 8,000 at 24 minutes into the game.
But it's something that we have to see Kongdoo Monster do more of, is trying to force skirmishes elsewhere where the Varus isn't, because Varus right now is super ahead. He has 3 items. He has also the sort of build that will just cleave through multiple members of Kongdoo. There's the sheer amount of gold involved. So they want to force 2v2s, 1v1s. Here is the 1v1. As you can see, Smeb didn't start this low health. Because Executioner's Calling procs on all forms of physical damage, it does proc on the first boomerang. Nowhere for Smeb to go. Doesn't even need a frozen mallet if you hit all of your Qs. And now Smeb, who has gone Ghost Flash, will probably hope that he stays in the lane away from Roach, wherever possible.
It's funny how that one item, you were talking about how it delays your build, but we do see the power of it there. See what happens when the Vladimir begins to flank and do some fun in the team fights. Definitely where we see some late game crazy Vladimir plays.
And to be clear, Smeb is in no way built for lane. There's no Seeker's Arm Guard. There's no magic resist in the build, apart from a QSS. He's pretty much built for, I'm going to Ghost Flash on the enemy backline, ult them, and then whatever happens, I'll be happy. KT can start Baron at any moment. It's a max damage build. Blade the Ruin King second from Death says, I want to do Baron early. They definitely do, but they're spotted out.
Yeah, they had the ward there outside the pit, which does spot them. KT, they get spotted once again, but they're still going on the Baron here very confidently. Look at Kongdoo looking to cut them off from behind. They want to turn
Smeb
here.
As well.
Here comes Smeb from behind the Cosmic Radiance. The perfect storm right now for KT. Smeb gets low, but he's still got a stopwatch. It's going to come down. He's going up to Soul. Might actually go down here. Has to back off. Should be able to get Tom Kent on the back foot here, but it's only 1 kill in the engage for KT.
Yeah, KT were always going to turn off, but man, was it beautiful in setup. Weren't able to stick the kills because a lot of summoners were available to Kongdoo Monster, but they can just return to Baron, score back to full health. They can start it again. They can turn again. So let's see what Kongdoo Monster makes of it with 4 members strong.
No Cosmic Radiance, no wall, no Vladimir ultimate, but let's see what the side of Kongdoo has to say about this. It's going to be up to Roach, potentially, to go for the big engage here. Let's see if he does do it. He doesn't have flash, so it's just going to be a hop on in. Very slowly, they're looking to turn. They don't want to 50-50 this. There's the burst, though, with no vision. They take out the Baron and disengage, get the hell out of there, and say, no, we will not fight you.
And those are about the safest you can do of Barons that look like 50-50 Barons. You do it that way, as Deft has his back interrupted, where you basically randomly DPS at a specific number at a specific time based on a team call. SKT would do this a lot. They would start Baron, they would hold it around 3,000 for about 8 seconds, and then instantly DPS it down to say 600 HP to try to burst it down. So it ends up being about as controlled as can be in a scenario where, like you say, outside chance of steal happens, but that was a 95-5 Baron that goes the way of KT Rolster. Further extends the leads around 10,000 gold now. And turn onto a mountain doesn't even seem necessary, but it's a freebie for KT.
Yeah, might as well at this point. Just pick it up after taking the Baron and make that Baron push even stronger as they push on in. Let's see which lane they want to go down here. Lots of summoners burned on the side of Kongdoo Monster. No flash on Roach, Edge, and Secret even. So it's really going to be up to Raze if they want to even try to engage here, down 10,000 gold.
Some interesting item choices. For example, Pawn has gone for a very early death cap. We'd never see it third item with any reliability, but all it really gives him, given there's a lot of magic resist stacking on the side of Kongdoo Monster, is extra damage on the squishies, but I think from his perspective, more damage to minions. It does help him push more. And I think that's the only reason you would go an AP-heavy build on the Taliyah early, is to feel good about yourself, because he's got a sweet hat, but mostly for the pushing.
It's very stylish, you know?
It is.
In the flavor of the upcoming holidays in Korea.
Right now, just trying to push up this last minion wave bot lane. They've given up on top lane. KT, they get any invitation, will press R on Sejuani on Tarek and go for a dive. So they're not necessarily worried about not playing 3 lanes.
They control all the vision. There's this one ward that spotted them out, but that was about it. Always threatening here for the engage. KT looking good. You know, there were some questions about whether they would be sad and discouraged after their stomping by KZ over them, but so far they've looked very solid in this game.
Yeah, can't disagree. It's good to see from KT. Every team faces adversity and needs to have impressive performances on the turnaround. This so far has been impressive. Looking for the close. There's the Weaver's Wall behind, but what happens next?
Traps everyone, but they decide not to engage. Amada actually gets very low here. Trying to heal him up. Deft looking for that kill, but nicely timed Devour by Secret. Redemption gets Mana up to health, has the heals as well.
No minion wave.
Minions, yeah. They gotta wait for this one. Ooh, nice ultimate there onto Roach, but another Devour up. And that means 5 members, they're looking for it, but the counter engage here onto the Malzahar, who does flash away. Ray's going in with this last dying breath, says, I will trap 3 of you, but then dies. As KT continuing to push. They want their first inhibitor down on the bottom lane.
Yeah, showing a surprising amount of respect here. They're quite squishy in build, so Soul is actually registering damage on them. Smeb with a bit of backline impact. Waiting for ults to come back up for KT, but they're still fighting.
Roach wanted that big ultimate, but a nice bait there by Score to have it only hit him up against the wall. And that is going to be a bunch of members now zoned out too low as they do finally pick up that bottom inhibitor.
Yeah, a lot of sustain for KT, so happy to walk up. Didn't have a second round of abilities because they haven't gone heavy on cooldown reduction or anything like that. So they back away, they got the inhibitor they're desperately setting up for. Once again, the Spo TV overlay letting us know plenty of time with the down bot lane inhibitor. Infernal Drake will be spawning, but only in a while. KT go, load up, spend their now 13,000 gold lead. And the next time they get a couple of kills, the game will probably end for KT.
I really like this inhibitor overlay. The only thing I'd say is that the lines on the blue side are a little bit thinner than the ones on the red side for the actual inhibitors, or rather the lanes. So
information is power.
Maybe we can get that fixed next time.
I love stuff like this because I remember the first time I was told that supports were timing flashes. This is way back, right? 2010. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, like that's so cool. Like I'd never have thought of that. And the amount of innovation there's been both in spectating and also stats and bookkeeping has been massive since then, as we got the confirmation that Deft made a casual 805 gold from his Relic Shield. So still some gold generation, even if not as strong as before. So I'm sure Riot looks at that and probably is okay with it, because at the end of the day, you know, there was a trade-off. He didn't have Doran Blade for lane. Don't know if Kongdoo Monster should be okay with the fact that 3 people warded over the wall.
Yeah, that's just a
lack of
communication for sure. At this point, it's kind of like, well, we lost this one. Let's talk about the next game, but obviously not talking about their ward positioning. And see if they can get that under control in the next one. But I don't know about the Relic Shield. I still feel like if you're making that much money, like 800 gold for the 350 it costs to pick up, definitely is worth it. That's what it said in the Korean on the little CG we had pop up. Still worth it.
If you don't have the AD and the enemy plays aggressively, perhaps there's a way to take advantage of it. I feel like every choice, whether it's, hey, I can lane with teleport because the enemy lane didn't gank us, so we were able to get away with having no combat summoner, then it's also great there too. So just thinking about it more broadly is seeing a fight attempted.
They want to get onto Deft here. Nice little Cataclysm, but again, all those defensive ultimates come out. But look at that, Sejuani getting pretty low, trying to flash her way out of there, but in goes Smeb trying to go 1v3 right now. Might be able to just do that. Executioner's Call and helping out as he does get burst down. But in the end, he does zone everybody away. That means not too many more kills, but more objectives.
And it's also as the minion wave was cresting in the mid lanes. They're going to get a mid lane inhibitor. They're trying to get 3 inhibitors here, KT. Only 1 dead, so they probably can't end the game. Long cooldowns for the members of KT. They probably can't force anything after that, but they're going to feel good about taking 3 inhibs.
3 inhibitors go down. We now have the timers on them on the left. And it's pretty cool to know the timing of that. We will have the Baron buff coming up here as well. Now, 16,000 gold ahead for KT. They definitely have their pick of the litter, as Infernal Drake seems to be the first objective they want to go for.
Some cooldowns coming up soon. Weaver's Wall available. Hemoplague as well. KT just want to end this one. You know, we felt like the game was over for a good 20 minutes, but for now at least, unable to close. Closing games in this meta, of course, very, very tricky. A lot of wave clear available. Most of the champs involved in the game provide disengage or have great safety, so getting kills without very strong engage CC is hard, and that engage CC is usually on a long cooldown. So given how strong the defensive game is right now, KT have stuck around. Kongdoo Monster think they're going to take advantage of back timings. Spoilers, they're not.
Yep, here comes Score. They're like, oh crap. We're sorry, we didn't mean it. We didn't want to do Baron. We're going to leave now. But in comes the Cataclysm, and actually Pawn getting a little bit too far forward. He gets picked off. In the end, it is a 1-for-1 trade. They do lose that, but Raze is incredibly low. Will they commit to the 4v4? KT can easily turn off of this one. Roach, though, still very healthy, as is Soul. The poking does come in. Cosmic Radiance now, they are easily going to turn onto Edge. Down he goes, and he wants a little bit more as they take down Roach. Nice chain of corruption to make that a bit easier. And actually, nice dodge there on the ultimate of Gnar. As Mata gets low, Roach almost going to get away, but Smeb and Deft do say no in the end. And by the way, guys, in the main base, the Nexus is going to go down. GG.
Minions, baby!
There you have it, 16-4. A big win for KT. Wasn't the most exciting one, but at least it was solid. They came up to play today.
They came out, they didn't look like losing, they ended up closing the game. Were there some comical moments? Was it clean? Was it cleanly finished as perhaps the fans or the coach would have liked? Maybe not, but they still were able to close it out here, KT Rolster. They will not start off game 1 at least with a hangover after the loss to Kingzone Dragon X, and could be a short night here, Valdez.
Definitely could be. We were expecting this series to go short, but we thought that the night would kind of extend because the first one would go long, but even that did not come true. And everything seems to have settled down here at the LCK, whereas in the beginning, it seemed like anything was possible, right? Kongdoo 2-0ing KSV. Afrika coming up big now in second place, but
Raze being our regular season MVP at 4 in the first 3 series of the season. We're gonna watch the replay here. Kongdoo Monster didn't have the information, but made the read. Maybe they'd gone back. Pawn decided to segment the battlefield, but unfortunately for him, away from his allies, so
a little bit of charity for him. He's like, here, you can take my life.
Smeb was trying to work out some stuff on the Gnar at the back end of this after getting solo killed. You know, if he wanted to pick up the kill. KT were kind of less decisive around this round than you'd want them to be. We were focused on Smeb, just rushing in, trying to kill, but the minions the whole time were doing a lot of work. The turn here comes from Smeb. We were watching the other side. KT stayed on the Baron quite a long time because he didn't actually have re-engage CC after Deft used his ult onto Roach. This was actually a really nice W, by the way, to move away from Roach. On the other side of the fight, KT give up their health bar, but in the end it doesn't matter because the minions did the dirty work.
Smeb literally dodged everything, but Winions are Winions, all the super minions coming on in together. Some of them even being bugged out. Couldn't totally hit the Nexus. Might have ended even a couple seconds earlier, Papa.
Those are the KT fans. They got too excited.
Yeah, that they did. Guys, we're going to be going to a quick break eventually here as Kongdoo try to piece everything together. Lots of frustrated faces, and Ray's cleaning up. Looks like he'll be taking out his keyboard, and Yujun should be coming on in for game number 2. So a change that I think they had to make, but not very fun for Rays. We'll see how that goes after a quick commercial break.